Mainstream multiplayer shooters are a dime a dozen these days, with yearly releases, franchises, and free-to-play titles. Most either make minor improvements to the genre or continually recycle what made them great to begin with. But in the last decade, there was one multiplayer shooter that innovated the genre and pushed it to new heights. The game changed what a first-person shooter could look like in terms of movement and gameplay mechanics. It spawned a host of copycat gameplay from established franchises and even influenced the battle royale genre of today. Though it's seen its up and downs over the years, this is a game that has risen in popularity 7 years after the release of its first installment. This is Titanfall. Titanfall released in March of 2014. The game was developed by Respawn Entertainment, a studio started by Jason West and Vince Zampella, the co-founders of Infinity Ward, the studio responsible for numerous Call of Duty titles, including Modern Warfare in 2007 and Modern Warfare 2 in 2009. After a series of disputes with publisher Activision, West and Zampella left the company to start a new studio and found a home with Activision's #1 rival,
EA Sports. It's in the game.
The first Titanfall installment came with a heavy marketing push. EA wanted gamers everywhere to know that a new franchise was in the works and spared no expense getting the word out. The game was a relative hit and sold more than 10 million copies. Many flocked to Titanfall because of its online presence, and many stayed for the high-octane gameplay that other shooters simply could not replicate. Titanfall is a mix of classic FPS multiplayer and an arena shooter. Players are given a number of movement options, including double jumps, wall runs, and slides, which they can use to traverse the battlefield however they see fit. The big difference from other games of the time, like Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, was that Titanfall didn't cap or reset player momentum after an action. Instead, player momentum is conserved, meaning that once mastered, players can accelerate gameplay to insane speeds, and very quickly, player movement became just as important as individual gun skills. But while having good fundamentals is important in any game, the real showstopper for this game is the Titans.
Bish, I'm tracking McAllen's team in the sewers. Doing okay so far.
Copy that. Keep your fingers crossed.
Titans are giant mechs that are powerful and precise, able to kill enemy pilots with just one shot. To earn a Titan, players build a meter by killing opponents and capturing objectives. Once they've built enough meter, they can call in their Titan and jump into the pilot seat. Though strong, these robots are not invincible. They can be taken down by other Titans or by enemy pilots with a move called a rodeo. A rodeo is when a pilot jumps on the back of a Titan, removes its external plating, and exposes a weak spot. From there, the pilot can shoot the vulnerable area and take down the Titan. On top of this, Titans are extremely slow, at least when compared to the pilots flying around the map. So while powerful, they're not completely unbalanced. The real draw of the Titans is that they're highly customizable, and players can build their mech that suits their style of gameplay. Players can change their Titan's guns and tactical abilities. This includes things like a shield that absorbs bullets, a series of different missile strikes, or a kit that brings different Titan abilities to the table. Titans can be used as a simple mech that the player can stomp around in, or for tactical advantages based on the game mode. Pilots also have access to different abilities and anti-Titan weapons. Pilots and Titans alike can also pack a punch with some of the most satisfying melee animations in all of gaming. At its core, Titanfall didn't mess around too much with traditional FPS mainstays. But the first installment of the franchise wasn't without its faults. The game did not have what most would call a single-player experience, as the main campaign was more like a long tutorial. On top of this, the multiplayer that the game prided itself on had its limits in terms of content. The title also had different matchmaking issues that hampered everyone. So while the first Titanfall still retains a dedicated fanbase to this day, the franchise really took off with its sequel. Titanfall 2 was released in October of 2016 and fixed many of the problems of its predecessor. A single-player campaign was added, which is hailed by many as one of the best shooter campaigns of the 2010s. But where the game really shines is in its multiplayer, where Respawn Entertainment made some very welcome changes. Maps were given more verticality and enemies more color. Customization options and unlockable content were added to keep the gameplay fresh and new. Players could now specialize to be a high movement sniper with a grappling hook or a stealth shooter with cloaking abilities and a shotgun. More Titans were added with the same level of customization, adding kits, ordnances, and unique abilities to their own rigs. Take the Ronin, a scout Titan that is nimble but fragile and can do a lot of damage very quickly. Its primary weapon is a shotgun, and its phase dash ability allows Ronin to close the gap on enemies or escape if a fight is going south. Ronin can also pull out a broadsword to hack at enemies or defend itself. The sequel also introduced a new rodeo mechanic, which allowed players to steal a Titan's battery and massively reduce its health. That battery can then be given to a friendly Titan or kept to recharge a pilot's own Titan. The game initially received mixed reviews from fans, but critics praised Respawn for listening to the community feedback and improving on an already excellent product. Unfortunately, the game failed to take off. The biggest reason for this failure to launch was the game's release date, sandwiched between EA's own AAA title Battlefield 1 and the next installment of the Call of Duty franchise, Infinite Warfare. In a crowded fall market, the title was seen as a third option by many FPS players. Titanfall 2 was also not as heavily marketed as Titanfall 1, so most players didn't even know that the game was no longer a Microsoft exclusive and could be purchased on PlayStation. At the end of the day, Titanfall 2 failed to reach the monetary heights of the original, underselling it by millions. But still, the game was a hit with its core fan base, and Respawn was committed to keeping the content flowing with free downloadable content throughout its first 2 years. Players received multiple game patches and new DLC packs, which included cosmetics, skins for Titans and guns, and new maps and Titans to play with. The game also came out on PC, launching on Origin and EA Access in 2017 when Respawn was fully acquired by Electronic Arts. This sparked inquiries into a potential Titanfall 3 as the studio was ramping up production of a new game. But those rumors would be squashed with the release of the Battle Royale known as Apex Legends, which took many of Titanfall's movement mechanics and applied them to the emerging genre. Respawn also worked on the Star Wars franchise with Jedi Fallen Order, and as of right now, there's no real hope for a third installment of Titanfall. Over the years, the game has maintained a steady player base that was bolstered every now and then by free-to-play weekends on PlayStation and Xbox. But in summer of 2020, the game skyrocketed when it was released on Steam. Now, Titanfall 2 was being introduced to a whole new audience and flew up the Steam charts, peaking at over 16,000 concurrent players and remaining in the top 100 games played to this day. The release was not without its hiccups though. Titanfall 1 and 2 both had server issues and had to deal with hackers harassing new and existing players with racist bots and DDoS attacks. Respawn committed themselves to addressing these issues, especially as the audience has grown in the past year, but the problems have continued to persist. Titanfall is a franchise that redefined what an FPS could be. From fluid movement to battle mechs, Titanfall is one of the most fun and innovative shooters in recent memory. The second installment improved on the gameplay of the first and broke the mold of other FPS sequels and franchises, with no paid DLC or microtransactions. It may have missed out on its initial player base because of an awkward release date, but interest persisted with its core players, and as more people start playing, the player base has continued to grow. 5 years later, and Titanfall 2 is still relevant and going strong, something that other FPS titles released in 2016 simply cannot say. As the years have gone on and Titanfall's community has persisted, this game has been given a second life, and going into 2021, it's only up from here.
This video was made possible thanks to our wonderful patrons. A big thank you to everybody on this list, and shout out to Jason, Foxy, Lyra, Mauve, Nate, Nathan, Oshayo, Sierra, Shampoo, Weeaboo, Spartacus, and Yoshichi for being platinum supporters. And an extra special shout out to Steven, Noodles, Marco, Mookie, and Daniel for being diamond supporters. Thanks a ton guys, it means a lot to us.
If you also want to support our channel and unlock perks, check out the Patreon link in the description below, or join our Discord server. If you want to help us out in a different way, leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell to stay up to date is also appreciated. My name is Jonah, thanks for watching.